Welcome to Time Bolt Office Hours on October 26, 2023. You are live with Doug and Quinston. We are here to answer your questions, check your workflows, and generally just make sure you get the best out of Time Bolt. The first thing that we're going to do is invite some customers in and answer some questions. How's it going?
Hey, Thomas.
But Thomas, are you here for any specific questions? I just want to make sure. Do you have any questions?
No, actually, I don't have any questions of use case. I just want to learn things, and maybe I will have some questions seeing you live, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of different directions that we can go with these office hours. Today, I was going to run through some of our shorts workflows. I'd like to go ahead and Quinston, we're going to talk about the new tool that we built, a VFR detector and encoder. We're going to kind of start off there. And can you tell me a little bit about the content you make, just so I have some perspective on what you do?
Well, for now, the goal is just to record myself for hours because I have ADHD. I tend to talk a lot, and I've been using a Time Bolt to just be able to watch again what I said. My end goal is to extract some interesting stuff that I might end up saying at some point. It's been a lifesaver for that. And what I'm aiming to is like wasting the least time possible to edit, but also to find some good ways to have some kind of smart jump cuts, zoom and stuff. I've been trying to script my own DaVinci Resolve as a script to auto zoom on the cuts. For now, I couldn't find a way to even link that to the clips, the adjustment clips. But my goal is to earn some time for now, to use it maybe even with my clients, because they tend also, as they do have ADHD too, they tend to talk a lot. And sometimes it's just not useful to hear all that pauses and understand stuff.
What's the content you're making for YouTube? Is it horizontal? Is it like a horizontal 16:9, or are you doing vertical video for?
Well, for now, I did not even choose. I just have the reflex to use the horizontal version, because I used to be in TV technical school. Anyway, we will format it to use the horizontal content, which is not truth anymore. The end goal is to be able to dare to be on YouTube and stuff. But for now, I'm just trying to work on myself to be able to accept myself on video also.
You got to have courage, and it's something you got to get comfortable with yourself. And that's exactly why Quinston and I came up with Time Bolt. We wanted ways to look more persuasive in video, right? You get up there and you're pretty critical of yourself.
It's helping to avoid the Van Gogh effect. Like when you want to learn to paint and you end up in a museum and you see Van Gogh paintings and you say, okay, I will never be able to do that. You just end up not doing anything. And Time Bolt is like helping to save the time and to see what you just did, even if the content is not that interesting yet. At the end, you end up with a more professional video yet, even if it's a draft. That's the way I use it for now.
That's fantastic. Yeah. You're relatively new to creating content, talking to a screen, recording video, and you're exactly the type of customers that we want to reach. I do have an ad that I would like for you to take a look at. That's made especially for people like you and I, if you don't mind. Let me go ahead. I'm going to give you some context. Do you use LinkedIn? You on LinkedIn? Okay, you're just scrolling on LinkedIn, right? You're just kind of scrolling on LinkedIn, and all of a sudden you see this. I'll let you read it. Let me know what you think.
Oh, I cannot read
the small print.
Small print is for humoristic too. Okay, and that's good. That's specifically my pain point.
Nice.
What's interesting, I just talked with a friend about that. Some people they choose some kind of behind the scene jobs like me. I used to be a self-help coach. With the COVID, a lot of people just lost their job and they tried to find a new job, and they became a coach too. We end up with some people who choose this job because they like discreet and behind the scenes, and at the same time you end up with some people who dare at once to make videos and stuff and to sell their stuff, and creating this gap. Because nowadays, even if you're a filmmaker, for instance, you're compelled to be on Instagram, on LinkedIn, on whatever. You have to dare to be on screen, and it's this your ad is specifically aiming at the kind of people stuck like me. I know my job. I will have to overcome the fear of speaking and communicate about me.
That's great. No, I appreciate you being open, telling us where you are. That's exactly where we want to meet you. I think it was so difficult once I didn't understand how cutting up and removing silence in 2019 could really make you that much more persuasive and be like the same video you watch on YouTube. Maybe it would be good. Maybe it would be good to go ahead and start with, I can show you an iPhone video, for example, and I had to get up and pitch for a minute and a half. I had to break that down into a 1 minute short, and it doesn't look like it does as it does edited. It just takes a whole different form, and my IQ points go up because of it. I can show you kind of that workflow that will get you the best quality video at the most minimal effort to get you interested in making more, if that works for you. Let me check with Jason real quick, and let me just make sure I'm going to check in with Jason. Jason, do you have a specific issue or anything that you'd like to have solved?
I do not. No, I'm mostly tuning in just for information purposes.
Okay. And what type of content do you make, Jason? Just so we know.
I make shorts for health entrepreneurs. I do long form podcast videos.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Well, this is what we'll do. It sounds like we're all kind of in the same boat here. I'm going to go ahead, and what I'll do is I'll show you our shorts workflow using an iPhone video. All right. What we have here is an iPhone video that I did. I'm looking for something that for Instagram, YouTube Shorts. This is almost 5 minutes long, right? Of a 1 minute long video that's entirely scripted. This is something that I scripted. If this was unscripted, right now you would run check. Okay. You hit the check button, start audio transcription. This is about a 5 minute long video. It's going to take about a minute and a half. It'll upload to the server, rip off an audio only WMV, and then run the transcriptions, and then put the send those token based transcriptions back to TimeBolt, where you pay for it right here. Okay, this is I think it's 10 cents or 50 cents for every 10 minutes. The transcriptions that you typically see, and what I'll show you in CapCut in this shorts workflow, a TimeBolt to CapCut to finished video for shorts or Instagram, those transcriptions that are free, they look at it based on a sentence based level, when we need transcriptions that measure down to the word tokens, like milliseconds. This is where the and word is, and that's why they still cost us money, and we have to pass that cost on. After this gets done, upload, and it should be, there we go. You're not going to see any filler words in here, but again, even though we use an entirely different technology, we use sound wave detection, not transcriptions, to do our base cuts. Our base cut is inherently more precise, but even though AI is just kind of a benefit, our check is better than what you can get in Descript, Gling, any of these other AI type editors. Is basically be able to put word choices together and add your own unique word tick phrase. It's not like we give you 10 and 10 filler words. You have to run with those. Most of the filler words today are not just and they are just and they are combinations of words that when you cut that out, it gets to be very precise. And then when you combine words, the cut precision happens a lot more. And if at any time you have any questions, just jump in and interrupt. No big deal at all. I do turn off. Oh wow. Oh, this is the reason there's an because I say check. Who's the idiot that named check when it cuts out the ums? Every time I have to go allow, every time I say check in these recordings in Zoom, I have to go allow the You just hit split timeline, turn off the words. I don't want to do that right now because this is scripted. What we're going to do here, I want you to know when you get into TimeBolt, you're going to just need to know 3 keys: SOB. And if you're in America, you know it's you know what that stands for, right? SOB, the easiest things to remember. What happens is S. Let me get to a point here where, let's say with the S, I want to split. The S splits the timeline. Okay, do not, you can go here and click this, but don't do that. S splits the timeline. O turns the existing scene that it's on off. So let's say I didn't want anything past here. I hit O, and see how I just turned everything off there. Let's say I'm still going. I don't want this whole thing as you're going through. If it's not a talking head and everyone's O, right? It turns the scenes off. The first thing that you're going to do, I've skipped this stuff. The first thing you're going to do when you put your video file in, put this at 1.5x, because there's no point in previewing the space bar. First thought, how do I not look? You automatically start previewing at 1.5x. Never do it at normal speed. There's no point in that. So we learned the keys: S to split the timeline. You can even split like in the middle of the timeline, S, right? And I can go up here and do this. Or what I can do, let's say I do S split over here, split, and I want to cut what happened behind me. I hit the B key. That's the B keys, back cuts, right? So now you never have to stop the playhead. O turns the existing scene off, B back cuts. So let's say I'm listening. Foolish. Like photographs, 35% of takes are no good. And your options are beat yourself. What if I didn't want, and your options are, maybe that was a repeat. Okay, maybe I said that your options are 3 times. I just hit B and that's gone, right? I don't even have to turn off. Someone to do it. When it's your neck on the line, you want something other than that. TimeBolt is a rapid video editor for Windows. Once you get to your base cut and in the same fashion, now you were talking about, Thomas, what about punching around, zooming around? You don't have to learn keyframes for this, okay? And what I'm going to show you in CapCut, you're going to basically export to CapCut a fully cut timeline with punch and speed up values baked in. What you can do with punch, you hit P, the letter P, okay? All you do is just the letter P, and it punches in up to 3 different values. Now, as you can see, I'm not exactly centered up. I can hit Alt Option and my arrow keys to move around left or right, right? It's not just I can only punch in a certain value, like 175%. I can actually punch in and move around with Alt Option and the arrow keys. Well, of course, you can go do this, right? And I'll do this, but it's just not as fast. There's no point. You're only going to learn a couple keys in TimeBolt. But sometimes your punch values aren't going to like match up, right? When most of the time they won't, especially if you're a talking head, right? You're going to have to customize. What we do here is, let's say you want to do, let's say 120, let's say 108, and then like 115, and then you're inputting custom punch values here and like 130. Okay. Now see how it more gradually goes in, and you can, that's a whole different, that basically puts my face in frame much better with talking head. You can also fast forward silences. One of the big advantages over transcriptions is the fact that time just doesn't disappear in between 2 sentences. You can do things like fast forward silence as well. What happens is that you can do something like this, and it'll actually this is the only time you click the bar is when these fast forward silences are clicked. Okay. And I have this set to speed up by a rate of, I could do up to 4x, 1.5 to 4x, right? This is the only time I actually click this bar. I usually don't do too much fast forward automation, which you can do. You can say like, hey, anything less than 3 seconds, I want to increase by the speed up by 1.5x. You can see, like if you were doing mouse clicks or some type of tutorial, you still see the action, you would just see it faster, right? When you don't want to actually get rid of what's in between the jump cuts. I'll put that back at 0 so I have full control. What I'm going to do is I'll go ahead and I already have my timeline saved, and I already have a timeline saved. Pitch Good Stitches 3. So these are all my punch values.
So our base cut is inherently more precise. And unlike transcriptions, time just doesn't solve attention deficit video for work in YouTube. Warning.
Now you've taken your video, you got all the crap cut out with the SOB and your automation work, as opposed to activating turbo mode. Like if I see that this is 1 minute and 22 seconds, I can't shave this down to, I can't turbo mode this and make this 60 seconds because it would speed everything up. I could basically hit 60 seconds here for a time limit, and it will speed up the entire video, the 1 minute and 22 seconds to reach into 60 seconds, right? To compress down into 60 seconds. You won't sound like a chipmunk, but it'll be too damn fast. You typically don't want to go over 10, 12 seconds on a minute long. Otherwise it'll just speed it up too much. I know that with this, I'm going to create an Instagram video and a short because I want to keep this content. And there's some things I can lose for a short, which I'll have to do. We're going to wait to do that in CapCut, okay? Because you're going to need the whole video there for CapCut. What you're going to do here, export clips to a folder. And as you can see, I already saved these, okay? I'll go through the whole rendering process again, but it saves it. You create a folder, you just type in new folder, type in your folder, and you just create a folder and hit start rendering when you do that. This is a test folder, select folder, it starts rendering. I'm going to go ahead and stop this render in a second. Just do new project, okay, free layer. I'm going to import, okay, just simply go to import, Pitch Good Stitches. Here's my YouTube shorts. As you can see, they're numbered and they're already sequentially numbered. You go ahead and import as this, they're all still selected, and all you simply do is just drop it right into your timeline, and what you've got is a fully cut up
there are
video.
things in life where longer is better. Video, it isn't one. Today it's very
You already have your timeline all cut up. Do not try and do this in CapCut because it will take you forever, okay? That's the benefit of this. We basically imported a bunch of movie clips as all individual clips. So now imagine you do auto captions, create, and as you can see, look how easy this is. You can basically turn on the captions however you want. All the changes are applied. If you tried to do this as one single video, you were talking about there would be errors. There would be a lot of parts where you'd have to pull over and pull back and all that kind of stuff. What happened here is since it's exported as clips, all of a sudden captions become very clean. Okay, they're lined up based on cuts, right? You're not like going, okay, this word starts here and then goes all the way over here, and then you got to put a clip there. It takes forever that way. So you're exporting as clips like this. Right into CapCut saves a tremendous amount of time, because now what happens, you can go in and start dropping your, let's say you got, especially like transitions, boom, your transitions are already, so now you're going to be making some cool ass video. You didn't even
class. And everyone's first,
it doesn't really matter. Like I can get wild.
And your options are,
go in and drop in your transitions and like even like the effects. Like now you have specific scenes where specific things are said that you just add the effect over the top.
Like photographs, 35% of takes are no good.
So now you can get crazy and be the cure for attention deficit video. Now I may go in and say, okay, I thought this was a longer video. As you can see, watch this. This is where the fast forward comes into play.
So you can do things like fast forward silent as well.
That was actually 1.5x speed. I usually do it at like,
yeah, that was very slow.
That was like a 1.5x. This should have been like a 4 out of 1. It was just how it goes much faster. But that's how fast forward works inside these as well. And what I would do here is I would render for Instagram, because it obviously doesn't need to be more than, it doesn't need to hit a minute and a 60-second mark. I probably, since this is 1 minute and 14 seconds, I would probably still just throw this in turbo, and I'll show you what we do. Because now what happens is you've got something that's 1 minute 14. You can upload that. You can upload this to Instagram. I'm gonna wait till this thing gets done.
Now there are things in life where longer is better.
They've got a video that's 1 minute and 12 seconds. You're not going to see any dead air. This is actually the speed up silences. So we're gonna leave that alone. You don't want to remove anything, right? But what we're going to do is now this video is 1 minute and 13 seconds. I go down to activate turbo mode. I drop this down to 60 seconds. That's going to speed everything up by 1.22x. Add a render queue, start rendering.
While we are rendering, is there a way in Timebolt to create some kind of automatic G-cut or L-cuts?
So Timebolt is not used for that purpose. If you want to make a G-cut, L-cut, I think it's best to do in DaVinci Resolve, because we don't allow overlapping of, we can create a jump cut and create automation based on that.
Yeah, there's no like adding time in Timebolt. That's there's a balance sheet. There's a subtraction and an addition, right? And we just we do the subtraction extremely fast. After this renders, you're going to have all of your captions already baked in, and you're going to have a 60-second video where you're talking smarter and faster than real life, and it doesn't suck to be on camera. That's kind of the magic of it.
I'm not sure I was clear earlier. It's about to be sure that the jump cut is like not weird. We say that we need to align the eyes along the whole video, even if you zoom in. What we can do, for instance, in Resolve is like putting some from a text tool and then realigning all your things. You shown us how to zoom in gradually with the option. We couldn't find back where the eyes were from the previous cut. Like if you want to say, okay, whenever I zoom in my videos, it will be aligned with my left eye, then you need to see the previous one. Is there a kind of tip, or maybe it could be a feature, like to say, okay, the eyes are here in the normal frame, and then when I zoom in, I just realign on the line that is on the UI in a way.
Like a grid pattern which you can align with. We haven't added a grid, but yeah, we can put that on the timeline, basically on the roadmap to add something in the future.
Because what I see now is like if I do the same workflow for CapCut, then I will be compelled to do it frame split by split, just to make sure that it's aligned, and it can be some process which is not that creative in a way. So if I could just say, okay, my zoom for this video are going to be this, but it's there, I know that they're all aligned. Then after that, I don't need to do anything else.
What you can do is, if you think about it, right, in DaVinci Resolve, your scaling is still based on a percentage basis, right? If you scale in, your default scale is 100% because you're like completely bordered cut off, right? If you scale 105%, even in DaVinci Resolve, it's going to zoom in like 105, 106, 107. You're going to go zooming. What you can do is you can use that same value. Maybe you align it in DaVinci Resolve, for example. You take the source file, just align it in DaVinci Resolve, get the percentage that you have, and take that percentage, put it in Timebolt. It's going to be the same.
Good tips. Thank you very much.
Because it's the same calculation, right? Mathematically, it's a scale percentage.
Yeah, this is not how my brains work.
I would have the question for you. You're just getting started. You're just getting started talking on camera. Like that's pretty deep. For somebody who's just getting started on camera. Like you got a way to cut out the stuff that makes you hate the sound of your own voice really fast out of video. Now your eyes may not be like, that's like the guy who makes TV shows, right? Like you make complex content, right? Like do you edit? Like, are you an editor? You're not a video editor? I didn't hear that correct.
No, but I'm it triggers something in me when it's not done by everyone. Very basic fix in a way, getting me out of the content when I watch someone who just jumped it, like you brain find back the eye, because it's a brain thing. If I can already fix it, even if I'm not going to make this 1 million follower content and stuff, but if I know that this part of technical quick fix is done, then I would be happy. Of course, I don't need to. I think that's what you were going to say is like I don't need to be worried about that yet.
But I'm just saying. I think it's a good. We haven't thought of that, and I think it's a good idea and good feedback. I was just thinking that's just really deep before getting on, and CapCut can hide a lot of stuff too. It's not like when you're dropping stuff in, because now you're talking about DaVinci Resolve, and I just don't want to send you down like do you edit in Resolve?
Yeah, because of my technical school, and well, it's going to be interesting for Timebolt too, because as I wrote to you earlier, I was wondering whether I would invest in Timebolt or invest in Resolve. And when they announced the fact that they could transcribe the text, I was saying, okay, I could fix it, but Timebolt UI makes it much more simpler to focus on that, the way that you added this sum checker where you can add your own filler words, because sometimes I double the words, for instance, and the fact that there is this cursor where you can just click on it and say plus and stuff, it's way beyond what you can do now in Resolve. I'm less worried about choosing Timebolt in a way.
No,
but,
so one thing is you could use the free version of Resolve. Like the free version of Resolve is perfect. You don't have to buy the full version.
I agree. That's actually what I use.
DaVinci Resolve, the free version is fucking. I'm sorry for question. It's fantastic.
Jason uses Resolve as well. We just did a Resolve masterclass this last week. Just so we've got on our YouTube channel, we have a Resolve. We just Quincy went through the different ways that you export, and if you get into like multicam projects and stuff like that, what's the best way to use Timebolt? Did I hear Jason saying that you have some long form content as well? Like
that's correct. I primarily edit. Timebolt has been a valuable resource in saving me time in my editing process. But the type of content I typically work on are talking head videos, lectures, podcast interviews, big stage sort of projects.
Okay.
Do you use the markers that kind of tools to like find the pieces that you want to export, or you just like take the whole file, put it like export into DaVinci Resolve and then do it there?
I pretty much process everything through TimeVault and then dump the entire file into Resolve, and then I micro edit from there.
Okay. I think, Doug, we can go over the markers only thing. There are certain tools built into TimeVault that help you like narrow down. Instead of exporting the whole file, you can export some clips that you need. It depends on how big the file is, obviously. But
Sure. Yeah, these files are typically about 45 minutes long. Definitely long form.
Doug, do you want to like pick out a Zoom call?
I do, and if I was my competitor, I would be using TimeVault to do the stuff that I do TimeVault with. Like I see our competitors put out, they start doing these off. They don't even jump cut. It's just all just raw. There's no chapters. And thanks to that hour and 20-minute live stream that you guys did. This is a long Zoom call, 45 minutes. There we go. We're hitting our shoot. This is over an hour. Okay, it's almost an hour and 2 minutes. What happens is that when you're going through, use the same concept. Put this 1.5x. First thing you do, SOB. You already know what those keys do, what the punch key does, right? Jason, are you uploading your content to YouTube?
A lot of it goes onto YouTube, some of it obviously on podcast platforms, and some of it is actually displayed live at a conference.
Interesting. Well, the stuff that you put on YouTube, let's say that you're got a 45-minute video and you're going to need to knock it down into 30 of high, fast-paced information. Well, in addition to cutting out all the time and punching in and zooming around and fast forward and all that stuff, it's also important that you're able to categorize what's inside, right? With YouTube chapters. Do you do YouTube chapters by chance?
Currently, I do not.
Okay, let me show you why you may start. The goal is that you do all of your cut work inside TimeVault. So that when you export, if you're exporting into DaVinci Resolve, you're not adding or subtracting time at that point. You're just adding depth, unless you're like adding a 10-second teaser at the very beginning. Okay, we can add a 10-second teaser at the beginning. I'll show you why. So imagine as you're going through, you're cutting this thing up, you're removing stuff, and it's on your first pass. You're like into the video, like you're like into the subject matter of what you're watching, your first pass. So now on your first pass, this is the only time I'm going to ask you to do anything with the keyboard. I want you to right click and type in any size. This is chapter 1, right? And you do a mark cut. It adds a marker as you're going through, and
I've never had
sculpting. You're like, okay, this is chapter 2, mark cut. Go on here. Let's do one more. Chapter 3. Now, what you can do is after all this is cut up, what I would recommend on a long video that's 40 minutes long, you definitely want to do activate. Well, you won't be able to do turbo mode because you're not going to be able to do turbo mode because you're exporting XML. Okay. But I always do activate turbo mode for longer Zoom calls, but we won't do that right now. And instead, what I'll do is I'll go download markers text file, because if I do activate turbo mode, I put it on 1.125x. Anything that you see on our YouTube channel is at 1.125x. And then what I do here is I go and hit download markers text file. And what this little bad boy does, this opens a folder, and this is now copy and paste right into the description of YouTube.
Very nice.
Like it saves you, like that feature alone saves you from ever having to watch your video again. After that gets done, you've got a fully chaptered, polished video, and it's polished in less time than it took you to record live. That is the speed at which you can do this with cutting, removing content, fast forwarding content, punching in, and then chapterizing for YouTube. A 45-minute video should not take you over 45 minutes to fully cut up and polish into 30 usable content, not 5 hours. You want to get your automation work done first. You're going to make sure that your settings are set correct. They should be around these values, okay? And this will be automatically calculated for you. But the second thing is like once that's done, you want to run your automation, which means your check. I already have this one done. Let's see, this is a 10. This is the check that came out of this particular file. And as you can see with unscripted video, there's a lot of them.
Looks a lot like the stuff I work on.
If you like, yeah. So like these, so much of this, like, like
show him how to add new words and phrases to it.
Let's just pick something out of here. Your customers. It could be like, you know what I'm saying, right? Your customers. See that? Your customers. That combine them right there. You can add your own. This actually comes pre-filled with scientifically proven filler word list that has been worked on and vetted for over a year. That's how it all works. Split timeline, turn off the words. Here you've got, what you can do is to kind of see what you are cutting out, just in case if you really cared.
Flip the timeline.
You just flip timeline.
So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Listen to that. No one wants to hear that shit. I just saved people 5 seconds of life, like listening to absolute crap. And like the script ain't gonna do that. Isn't that awesome? I just love that. I just
blooper reel.
People.
And it's useful also because as I understand, if you do say some strong words or curse words, then you can
you can do that too.
I'm getting ready to do another brand video, and I've got like 8 books that are like, if you're the author of Give a Fuck, Don't Give a Fuck at All, or you can now become PG and kid friendly 85% of the time, because we will miss some, right? I literally have the hardback books of every book that has the word fuck in it, just to be able to accentuate that. It's kind of funny.
Hopefully Google will run the ad.
and this is the other thing. So now, Jason, after you get done with your 40-minute timeline, make sure you save your work, right? And it saves it all in a folder. Save your check file just so you've got it. I'll just kind of keep it all folded up nice and neat. And then what I can do, like if we ever get customers like that, or if you ever get a customer that comes on and like talks about TimeBolt, or you want to highlight that in a short, what you do is just go back in and clear markers. Okay. And at this point, you can then go back through.
The one issue that the WAV file,
click M, which adds a marker. The markers serve 2 functions. One of them is to serve as a marker for the YouTube shorts. The other is to actually pull together a highlight reel. As I add mark cuts, look down here. When I ran check, this is really cool. The whole words per minute was 167 words per minute. Okay. After check and the dead air is deleted, we're now at a fully caffeinated 230 words per minute. Okay. Knowing right here is mark duration. This means now when I'm going through and I'm marking, as you can see, when I mark a clip that I like, look at that duration go up, right?
It's 9, 17, 22,
22, 25, right? So I'm just like liking the stuff that I want to include.
And if it works, it might confirm my dilemma.
Do you think the key is you don't have to stop the playhead? That's the thing. I'm kind of showing it. I can talk
press M while playing it.
Yeah, because otherwise it gets all screwed up editing my own video with my own voice and inside the matrix. When I'm going through here, I can just actually watch. I'll just shut up. Is any relation or is related to that deal we had in Premiere that her files? Man, those are huge files. These files are massive.
Yeah, you can't do it on any other.
As you can see, whatever I've got, I'm adding up the duration here. Now what I can do is keep only mark cuts, and this just tells you it's going to modify the timeline. And you don't want to you want to do all your cut work before you go into keep only mark cuts, because there's a reason. You go keep only mark cuts, shift down.
You can press shift down to go only through the green ones.
Oh, okay, all right.
Press up and down to go to the next cut. So up goes to the next cut, just like Premiere and DaVinci Resolve, and shift up goes to the next green cut. So if you want to see all these shortcuts, there's a button there that pulls them up.
Right here.
Keyboard shortcuts. So there's a list of keyboard shortcuts that TimeBolt is pre-built with.
Very nice.
Yeah, that's nice. So now what you see.
But there was one issue that the WAV file did not come up inside Final Cut Pro. It came up gray, right?
Permanent for anyone. Now, just the mark cuts that are duration of 42 seconds were saved, okay, for shorts. Now you could basically either export as XML and do something Resolve, or activate turbo mode, because you could be going through and being like, okay, I really like shit. I'm going to hit Command Z to undo to get back to the original timeline. And what happens is this is where the turbo mode comes in. I want to keep that. Oh shit. And let's just do this one. Right. So now I'm at 1 minute and 11 seconds. I can then, let's say I really wanted to keep that. I can't remove anything. That's where I come down, do.
Oh, you didn't keep only mark cuts.
Yeah, keep only mark cuts. So now the timeline is now only 1 minute and 11 seconds. Okay, do activate turbo mode. Let's set this thing to 60 seconds. It's going to speed everything up by 1.197. Add the render queue, start rendering.
Doug, I had this question about markers. When you title them, is it just for YouTube, or can you use the titles in any editing software?
That's the thing. It's just a text file formatted for YouTube description.
No, I think it's a different question. When you mark a clip in TimeBolt, it will show up in XML too. If you export via XML to DaVinci Resolve, Premiere Pro, any of these editors, it will show up there.
Yeah, but when you title them, then you will.
Yeah, the title we haven't really figured out how to get it in Premiere Pro, but it's on the roadmap. We had a customer who requested that to get the title of the marker in Premiere Pro. That is still an ongoing process. We haven't figured that one out yet.
What would be cool to use is when you do the transcript from the check, then it's naming the files. What you said, which will be making it easier to edit afterwards.
You're saying take the content of that green clip and make that the text of the marker. Is that what you're saying?
And then
that makes sense.
And then I can totally imagine that I would be reusing the TXT file or whatever output it will be, and then maybe run it through ChatGPT to just summarize what is said in the segment, and then it will be a way easier to reorganize for me the end result in a way. It would be naming my files, and I would say, okay, I'll say that, and then I will be and then
so there is a way. Doug, can you open up the so when you run check, you go to a web page, right? On that web page, there is a way to download a text file. So what happens is when you run check, you get an email. That email has a link to where the transcriptions are. There's a transcription, and a coded file which TimeBolt uses, but there's also a text file directly. Doug, can you open that text? Open that page where a transcription is. I think you already had it open in a tab, right?
To download text file,
no,
right?
You can't cancel it first. On this page, right? And you'll get when you run a transcription from TimeBolt, you'll get an email. That email will contain a link to this page where the output of that transcription lives, right? Timebolt automatically pulls this information, but if you want to access the same transcript later on, you can still do it. There's an option over here which says download text file and download Timebolt transcription JSON file. The Timebolt transcription JSON file is what goes inside Timebolt, but the text file you can just download and put into GPT if you want.
Yeah, my process would have been different. I would have been renaming the segment first, and then asking GPT to rename the titles of the segment. That's what I wanted to do.
Yeah, this is the text file that you get. This is your whole video transcribe. You can just take this and cut it up. We are figuring out how to like make this better. One thing that I did have is nowadays what GPT can also do is it can read SRT files, right? If you have like a SRT file, GPT can also like understand the time codes and use that. Maybe there are like prompts which somebody can create, which take advantage of that. So you can summarize something between 10 seconds and 20 seconds, whatever information. I think SRT files are great for that because SRT files already have the timings inside them. So we are working on that. So how to get like an SRT file in this so that you can put that file into GPT instead of the raw text file, because the SRT file will also have time codes. So you can say, okay, summarize between 1 minute and 20 minutes, whatever the information is, summarize that part.
That sounds great in theory, but as somebody that goes through and does this every week, okay, I'm just telling you, like I go through and do this every week. And if I ask ChatGPT, like it does good, I pay for 4 and stuff, right? But it's verbose and it's not like, and it's not just gonna like to me, it's almost like a work of art when you're adding in chapter markers about how many, when's the right point. I could write it, the whole damn thing could be a chapter marker if you Chat GPT'd it, right? But your ability to summarize exactly what the point is you're speaking in as few words as possible while you're doing the first pass editing, like there's like you use chat, like summarize like a summary. Like you're like, hey, what I do with this transcription is I copy and paste it and I put it in Chat GPT and I'm like, hey, write me a description of this video, right?
I just think of it as like a helping hand. It's not like, because as Jason is a professional editor, right? For him, the subject matter might not always, right? Sometimes it's just a boring lecture, for example. In that case, right, ChatGPT could always have like give you a helping hand. Okay, this is what roughly this summarizes to. Maybe, obviously, there's also prompt engineering involved, right? Because if you just give it like a vague prompt, it's not going to give you the right answer. You also have to like tweak your prompt a little bit. Okay, I want a short answer. I want 3 lines. What I think about it is it's just a helping hand. That's
agreed. Can one of you speak to the differences between the XML and JSON export types?
So the XML is great for if you have one long file. If you have something that has multiple video files, like you have multiple cameras or multiple files, multiple audio tracks, multiple audio files, then I would recommend using the extension, because the XML just isn't a very good way of, as Doug said, we have like a 1-hour video on this whole topic.
Well, it is a chart. Yeah. XML is for single video and audio files together, right? If you're like a normal dude and you just got a normal camera and your audio is coming in the same with the video, it's perfect for that, right? But as soon as you start getting where you have to sync something up, right, that's when you might as well use the extension, because that's also awesome, right? You just
multiple files, use the extension, use JSON. If you have a single file, use the XML.
Okay. Interestingly, I typically work on single long files, and I've used the JSON import into DaVinci Resolve. I didn't realize XML was recommended.
It doesn't matter. You can use both for single files. For single files, you can use both. The XML is just easy because one click and you just import it. That's the only reason.
Sure. Okay.
It does matter.
I'm copying the link to that video in the chat. So I'm putting the link.
There are some features within each of the export types that don't. The Resolve integration is right here. Like you can see all the features that we have and what it actually exports. If you're looking at XML, right, for Resolve, this doesn't export, like it doesn't show the markers. Like you can actually add markers in Timebolt and it'll show a little like marker. I don't know.
No, I think it does, right? It doesn't. Not for DaVinci Resolve, I think it does for Premiere Pro. Yeah, the multi-track audio is actually supported. This multi-track audio part, XML does support it. So you can remove this cross on this. I think we added it recently. I'm not sure when we added it, but this is not.
We'll have to go.
So multi-track audio is correct for all of them actually. Multi-track audio is supported across the board. Multi-track video doesn't exist. If you think about it, a video file, a file never has multi-track video. There can be 2 different files, but multi-track video is not.
Oh no, that means it's supported. No, this is X means it's supported.
Oh, X means supported. Okay, I thought X means supported. Or maybe you should use a check mark.
Sorry about that, guys. God damn it. Oh, dumb. No one's. Why hasn't anybody bought Timebolt in 3 months? What? It's a great deal.
Nothing is supported.
Nothing is supported. That's Timebolt. That's funny. But the markers again, like Mark, I don't know what you would use them in Resolve for, but other than, hey, if you do add time in Resolve, if it's just to the front, just add 10 seconds or whatever that bumper time is onto all your chapter markers for YouTube, and it'll still work out much better in your favor and time wise.
You want to go over the VFR stuff?
Oh yes. I'd like to turn this over to Quinston to show us the new tool. Sometimes when you're working in Timebolt, especially if it's your first file, you're a gamer or you got a Zoom call, okay, you throw it in the Timebolt and then all of a sudden you export to Resolve or you render and all of a sudden you got audio and video drift that happens like 10-15 minutes past. You're like, what the hell? What's wrong with Timebolt? And in fact, it's actually because these files are variable bitrate files and variable frame rate files. Frame rate, okay, they're different than bitrate. And what's actually amazing is that what he's going to show you, there is no tool to see if a file is variable frame rate, which is often recorded with Twitch, OBS because of bandwidth streaming, and which makes it very difficult to predict inside these software editors. And the only way to find out right now if it's variable frame rate is if you run a complicated code. Okay, Quinston fixed that and made an encoder for us as well.
This is aimed at typically files which are streamed over the internet. So if you might have, for example, maybe a Twitch stream, maybe you're recording a Loom, maybe you recorded something via your web browser. You have those browser extensions which record. They typically produce files which are variable frame rates. What that means is that when there's a lot of action going on the screen, they record at a constant frame rate. But then when there's no action on the screen, they actually hold that as a still image and then make it 1 frame per second, 2 frames per second, 3 frames per second. And that usually messes up with timings of the cuts. So when you might be editing in Premiere Pro or any other editing, any of these editors would recognize that timeline at a particular frame rate, right? It's going to be 30 frames per second or 60 frames per second or whatever in between. But for variable frame rate, you can make one cut at a chunk which is recorded at 60 frames per second, and you make another cut at a chunk which is recorded at maybe 22 frames per second. It could be anything. And that's the problem. And it causes a lot of pain when you have to render these out and you're like, oh, my cuts are out of sync. And again, this typically happens not with the DSLR cameras or anything. It usually happens only for videos which are streamed over the internet, maybe a Twitch stream. So you're recording gameplay, you're recording any of those kind of things, live stream, IRL stream. It sometimes even happens with iPhones. Like if you're recording an iPhone video and it's at maybe like you're recording 4K 30 FPS, your phone's getting hot, but you're still going, it might drop a few frames and it might just like very few, maybe 0.2% or whatever, but it still happens. So it could be because your CPU isn't able to process those frames and put them in the encoder fast enough. But the point is VFR, because of internet streaming and higher quality recording on low quality hardware, these files exist. A client might send them to you. So what we've done is we've built something called a VFR, a variable frame rate detector. So it's built right into Timebolt. You can just go to tools and click on variable frame rate detector. You can click on this and it'll open basically a window in which you can just select a video file to run the detection. So I'm going to select a video file. I'm going to select a file that has VFR. Okay, I'm going to select a file that doesn't have VFR first. So this one. Checked all of the frames inside the file and said, okay, no VFR detected. It has 2,444 frames. None of them are recorded in variable frame rate. Now I'm going to take a file which was recorded on an iPhone and check if it has VFR. This is going to take a while. So it's a very high quality file. I think it's recorded in 4K. Right now what it's doing is it's going through every frame in the file and just checking if that is at a constant frame rate. And this file was recorded on an iPhone. There was one file which was sent by a customer recently. It was a 12.5 gig file, which was a stream. And that file had the variable frames inside a file can range from 0 frames of variable to maybe 30% frames of variable or 50% frames of variable. When the variable frame rates are very low, maybe they're less than 1%, it doesn't usually matter. The timing is not affected that much. The timing only starts getting affected when the variable frames are above like 2 to 3%. In this file, for example, it's almost done.
And in Zoom recordings, like Jason makes Zoom recordings. If you don't click enable for third-party editor in Zoom, you will record as a variable frame rate.
Yeah, in this
Absolutely
file, you see,
correct.
In this file, you have a 0.37% variable frame rate detected. Now, it's 42 frames out of 11,300 frames, which it doesn't matter. This is not going to affect the timing that much. But you can imagine this number could be anything. This number could be 30%, 40%, 50%. Maybe the entire file could be recorded. There is a way to convert. We added a converter right into this. You can select what frame rate you want it at. If I wanted to export at maybe 29.97, click on this, click on export and save, and it just converts the whole file and tries to keep the same quality.
That's beautiful. Like that solves some big problems, really.
Yeah, and there's also one more thing that we did was a lot of times what happens is when you have multicam files, you usually want them to be at the same frame rate, right? When you're using them in DaVinci Resolve, because if they're not at the right frame rate, they could cause sync issues when you're using the extension. So what we thought was we have a re-encoder, and the reason we have a re-encoder is because you can now select any file you want, maybe a video file, and then it will basically allow you to change the frame rate directly as a UI. Now, obviously, you can do this with DaVinci Resolve, Final Cut Pro, any video editor. It's just like one more thing we built in Timebolt just to save the time.
Very nice.
So with multicam projects, that's true, Quincy. It's going to be a huge time saver.
There are some files where the bitrate would remain constant. There are some files where the bitrate would go down, but I don't think you'll find any noticeable quality differences. That's what I feel like.
Good. That was sort of my underlying question.
But obviously, you can always use Premiere Pro and Final Cut Pro or DaVinci Resolve.
You'll notice if you go back, like if you notice, we just got this tool last week, and you'll notice if you go back to last week versus all of our other weeks on office hours and listen to the recording, the audio quality is substantially different. Like it just cleared it all up.
Nice.
whatever we just did with rendering. What we used to do is we used to try and match, like if it was an MOV file, we'd output an MOV. If it was an AVI, we'd output an AVI or whatever. Maybe we didn't, but we'd try and match the source container. And that just caused a bunch of limitations. And instead we're like, look, we're going to export as an MP4, but we're going to jack up the quality as high and audio and video quality as high as possible and make it constant frame rate. That's just been a huge help. And now coincidentally,
Very
it's
nice.
where you can vary the frame rates.
Yeah, this is very important because for us, right? I don't know, for some reason, people who use DSLRs for recording content, they don't have this issue at all. But we have a lot of customers who are gamers, right? And for them, if they export a timeline from Timebolt and they have sync issues, it's usually because of variable frame rate. But nobody talks about it for some reason. And I looked for a lot of tools that would detect this for us, and nobody, I don't know, it doesn't make any sense why it doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist. You literally have
Yeah,
to
I don't
type
know
in
why.
command lines, like 15 command lines to understand if your file is variable frame rate in FFmpeg. And that just puts it way out of the reach for most of us. Because if you import to Resolve or Adobe Premiere, they have just the same problems that Timebolt does of processing variable frame rate files. We're pretty excited about that.
Very nice.
Awesome. Thank you, Quincy.
One issue I've noticed with Timebolt specifically related to audio processing, I noticed there was a audio normalization, a volume increase feature. It actually created a lot of distortion in my audio for some reason.
Yeah, that's only for preview. It doesn't affect the output. What happens is when you, I'll give you an example. Let's say I have a file, which is, I'll just say Dux file, for example. Without all this on, Dux file is pretty great, right? Because it doesn't have any distortions, no silences, nothing. The perfect file. Like the distinction between where it's speaking and where the silence is absolutely perfect. But there are some files which have a humming sound at the back, right? There might be some AC, there might be a fan turning, and there's like a slight humming sound at the back. And that kind of distorts the way Timebolt works. Like the detections might be off by like maybe 2 or 3 frames. And to avoid that distortion, what we did was we added this feature. And if you read over here, it says audio pre-processing for better silence detection. It doesn't affect the output. This is when you turn these on, it helps you detect a better detection. So if I turn this on, maybe all of these, and I restart the app and I select that same file again, it would definitely sound, it looks different too. So if you see the audio waveform, it looks like stretched out. And that's because we're trying to amplify the detections. But when you render it out, it's going to sound exactly like the original because it doesn't affect the output.
Well, you might have to use it on your first file, or if your first time recording with some microphone and it comes in low and you're like, I'm going to have to turn on these audio normalization settings. But usually after your second one, you already know like, oh, I have to increase the volume on my mic. And then that way, when I drop into Timebolt, I hate turning on audio normalization settings inside Timebolt if I don't need it. If it's not needed, just keep them off because that way you don't have distorted preview.
If you have great audio on your videos, you don't need it.
Good to know. Yeah, we're using pretty decent gear. I imagine we have pretty good audio and video quality.
So as long as there's a clear distinction between silence or dead air and sound, there's no need for it.
Thomas, I know it's really hard on people like you and I not talking for this long. Would you like to say, like, we got ADD? We're like, shit, man, what the hell else we got to do? Thank you so much for joining us today. Did you have any additional questions yourself?
No. I wanted to make sure I tell you about ADHD. That's my point about naming the markers based on the transcript was not for using it as a CEO, SEO, that kind of things. My goal was to help me, because it's not just a matter of being unable to focus on what you choose. It's also a matter of lacking working memory. Whenever I can find a way to make it easier for me to grab what is inside my content and where is what, then I will be using it. That's why I want to rename the segment with the transcript, not to overuse GPT to rename everything, but it was
you mean name the segments itself with the transcript? That's what you mean?
Yes, yeah. This is what
okay, now I get it.
Then I would end up with my rush.
It's the same thing, Doug. Yeah, it's the same thing that we talked about, that you can see the words as they're being spoken and the timeline moving at the same time. You're seeing all the information at the same time.
My goal was to rename when you cut the thing in the video in Resolve, then this segment would be named after what's been said inside. And then when I edit, I can see what is being said, and it makes my work easier because I like memory. That's just what I want to do.
Export every single. When you export from Timebolt, you'll basically, the words will go along with it essentially. So
I would recommend, if you want to see it like all your words, I just think with the type of content you're making, CapCut is going to, like, I know you want to edit and resolve because you're a real technical guy, right? But CapCut is just, if you're just making shorter form content, 5 minutes, less than 5 minutes. If we're doing like Jason and I do, if you're doing a 45-minute Zoom, you don't want to use CapCut, right? Like, but if you're doing something less than 5 minutes, you're able to do the captions and you're able to see what the words colors are there, and it's just I just feel like drop the transitions. You don't have to like go buy a bunch of plugins. You're just dropping in transitions and effects right on top. The preview is fast. I'm gonna try and actually just start. I've heard editors just leaving Resolve just to go entirely CapCut. You can do cool effects in there. You're not going to do multicam projects in CapCut, right? But like like if you're just doing a single video, they're free captions, and then once you cut it all up, I'm really looking forward to getting into editing more in that on that platform. Just the time.
So with CapCut, when you caption them, right, you do see the words along with because the words do show up there. When you hit the captions, like as Doug was editing, right, he had that button he pressed, start captioning or create captions, and then there was the video layer, and on top of that there was that small layer which had the words in it. You can zoom that out. I think. Can you zoom it? I think you can zoom it, right? And then
you can zoom. Yeah, you can zoom in. But also even if it's the text based stuff, right? Just open that text, the thing that you download Marcus text file, and you'll still have a notes pad from 0 to this time, as we were talking about. It's still kind of a chapter markers thing, isn't it? No, we appreciate the suggestions. Are there any additional questions that we've got? If not, I'll go ahead and shut this down. Awesome. I really appreciate. Jason, you good?
Sorry, no, I was just saying no questions from me.
Awesome. We really appreciate you guys coming out. I'll learn about TimeBolt, and hopefully we're going to shave in more time off your editing time with TimeBolt. And that pretty much does it for Office Hours on October 26, 2023. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, and of course the notification bell when we go live. Thank you for choosing TimeBolt, and we're out of time. Thank you very much.
Bye, guys. Thank you for joining.